Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Hattie Hyder and I talk about all things manifestation, wellness, spirituality, glowing up and growing. So if you're interested in any of those things, don't forget to hit subscribe. Today's video is going to be about some of the more subtle signs that somebody isn't your friend. And I had reservations about talking about this just in general because this is coming from like my own experiences. But I just feel like it's helpful to just be aware of these things because they're more sinister, they're more like insidious. And honestly, I wish that I had like stopped gaslighting myself at the time and actually just listened in and tuned in to somebody actually not being for me, somebody actually not being my friend. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish I had this video at the time so that I had like confirmation that whatever I was feeling, the bad energy that I was getting was like not me just making stuff up in my head. And for people that are like susceptible to second guessing themselves, I think this video is going to be useful for you. Now, we all know the kind of classic ones, which are insulting you in front of people, humiliating you in front of other people, but in a way that's like covert, and you come away feeling like, why did that person drag me in front of other people? Or those backhanded compliments. They're pretty clear and obvious ones now because more and more people are talking about it, but I want to go into the more subtle ones because I think when somebody literally, for example, insults you in front of people, that is a clear sign that they're not for you, that they actually aren't your friend. These are signs that you can take and be like, you know what, this is why I'm not going to be your friend anymore. You did this, this, and this. And I think objectively most people can agree are clear signs of a bad friend. There are some more kind of sinister, like covert ones that I want to go into today. And the first one is that when you hang around this person, whoever you have in your mind that you're not sure about, your anxious attachment style or your people pleaser tendencies, if you have these, are inflamed. So when I was around one of my former ex-friends, my people pleaser tendencies would be inflamed. And by the way, if you know anything about why people pleasers are the way they are, you know that people pleaser tendencies come from being with somebody at home or at school or whoever who you don't feel safe around, who you have to kind of manage the emotions of, who you have to tiptoe around in order to put their feelings above yours because that was the safest thing to do. So if your people pleaser tendencies are being inflamed, you're literally reliving the person you had to, I guess, manage the emotions of in the past. This is just a new version of the person that traumatized you when you were younger. So if those people pleaser tendencies are inflamed, I'm not talking about general people pleaser tendencies because when you're a people pleaser, generally speaking, you kind of carry them around with you most of the time. But there are friends who you can just like relax with, like let down your guard with, and you don't feel like having to basically people please them like consciously. And then there's people that you're like, I do have to consciously people please with them, check what I'm saying, make sure that their emotions are prioritized above mine because otherwise they might not be happy. And again, with the anxious attachment style, this can be relationships and friendships, by the way. Like if somebody brings out your anxious attachment style and you feel like you can't work out where you stand with them, or you feel like you're uncertain or left feeling uncertain about the relationship you have with them, then it's not good. Again, anxious attachment style is something that you need to heal, but some people kind of just fundamentally always are drawn to either avoidant or anxious attachment style, and you have to bring yourself to that secure attachment style. So if somebody's inflaming that anxious attachment style, that is just not good at all. For example, my boyfriend doesn't inflame my anxious attachment style. I naturally have one and I've done a lot of work on it, but he also doesn't inflame it. Like he just naturally assures me, like naturally does things that don't leave me guessing. And it's not like he has to make extra effort, he just naturally does that. And it's the same with friends. Like, I think about my friends, they don't leave me feeling like, oh, wait a minute, what? How do I don't know what our relationship is. Like, I don't know if they were good with me the last time I saw them. Like, I felt confused. Just be aware of that, because why? Why is somebody bringing that out in you? When you're actively working on it and then somebody still inflames that, something's not quite right there. And just as a rule of thumb, your friends shouldn't be making you anxious. Inflaming that is a good sign that they're not actually your friend, but rather, if I think about my own experience, utilize me. Like people in the past utilised the fact that I was a people pleaser and utilised the fact that I had an anxious attachment style because it made me more controllable for them, whatever reason they had for that. It meant that like they could kind of essentially like, it would be a precursor for manipulating me. Relating to that then is finding yourself policing how you speak, how you come across, like you're policing your language and like treading on eggshells around them because you're worried that whatever you might say might cause like some kind of emotional outburst or upset. You know, if you find yourself treading on eggshells around people because you're worried about any kind of emotional blow up from them, that is again not a good sign. I think again of one of my ex-friends, and I would constantly just, every time I saw them, I'd almost have to like, although looking back I realized I was doing this, but at the time I didn't realize like, or I was in denial about what I was doing, but I would have to prepare like my brain to make sure I was like policing myself and making sure that what I was saying would be like approved by her. It was like what she said goes, and so everybody else in the room had to like adhere to that, or had to police themselves in order to adhere to what she thought was right and what she thought was the truth, or whatever it was. If you're finding yourself in a place where you feel like, right, I'm gonna have to police myself, I'm gonna have to just like monitor what I say because, oh, that person's gonna like have a problem with what I say, then it's just draining, isn't it? I would essentially be nervous to be myself and say what was like on my mind, and not even in like, you know, it wouldn't even be controversial things, you know, it would be just my personal opinion or things I've experienced. You know, I was having to hold back a lot of myself in order to be in a friendship with this person. So if you're finding yourself having to police yourself, if you're finding yourself treading on eggshells, or you're finding yourself having to shrink or be like a lesser version of yourself in order to be around somebody, then it's not a good sign. That person just isn't your friend, because any true friend wants to revel in all your authenticity. They want to see you shine. They want to have difficult conversations with you. They want to be able to have discussions about different opinions and different points of view. They would never want you to feel like you had to police yourself in order to be friends with them. The next thing I'm about to say is probably one of the most sinister manipulation techniques, especially in friendships and relationships. And this was going on literally for like 2-3 years. And this is the never-ending vicious cycle that is love bombing, stonewalling, love bombing, stonewalling, love bombing. And I'm just going to give a quick definition of those things. So love bombing is when somebody showers you with affection, showers you with compliments, showers you with kind of over-the-top comments and seems like obsessive. And then stonewalling is when somebody will be off with you and they won't communicate with you, they won't tell you why, they're just really dismissive, they won't communicate to you what that reason, if any, is. They will just give you the silent treatment or just give you the cold shoulder. It's not just stonewalling, it can be like love bombing, treating like shit, love bombing, treating like shit, love bombing, treating like shit, making you feel belittled. This is a very toxic cycle to get into because they can make these comments, you know, take these actions that hurt you, and they know that they hurt you. We're all grown adults. We know what we're doing. However long later, when you're about to be like, you know what, this person isn't for me, they'll suddenly shower you with love, affection, like compliments and everything. So you're left feeling like, oh, that's so nice of them. Like, they're so nice to me. They, you know, they're really good to me, until the next time that they do things that hurt you. And then again, the next time, until they love bomb you again. So you're kind of trapped in this cycle of gaslighting yourself, especially when you're somebody, again, who's a people pleaser and like struggles with self-trust, is that you're left feeling like, oh wait, I just don't understand where I stand with this person. Like, I don't know if they like me or they don't like me. I don't know if they're just trying to be honest with me, or they're actually just trying to hurt me and put me down and make me feel like shit. Again, I'm going to revert back to my own example. They'd say things like, you know, I'm so proud of you, like whatever that is in my job or my career, you know, you're smashing it, you're reaching for the stars, like people aren't going to relate to you because you're reaching for the stars. And then on the other hand, would say things like, oh, Hattie, like maybe you should go for like a less snazzy job title next time. Or, oh, well, your workplace like doesn't owe you anything, when that I've been subject to like disrespect at work. On the one hand, she was like supportive of my career and like what I was doing, and then on the other hand, you know, she kind of made subtle comments to remind me of like my place and remind me that, like, gaslight me basically about any of my negative experiences that I had at work. She was so supportive of me in one sense in terms of work, and then really unsupportive of me in other senses at work. You know, it wasn't like, you know what, Hattie, like I've noticed that you struggle with like the corporate world, maybe you should go for a job that is less corporate or something like that. It wasn't like helpful, you know, being honest, being real with me. It was snide, you know, it was, oh, well, you should go for a less snazzy job title, as if that was what I was going for, like the job title. I basically started to like not even believe the times when she would be positive, because it just felt like that's fake. Like, she doesn't actually think that, she doesn't actually back me, she doesn't actually want good things to happen to me. You know, if you're left feeling confused, if you're left feeling like, I don't understand where I am in this friendship, I don't understand what they feel about me, I can't work out if they like me or don't like me, that is something that you should never, ever, ever, in a healthy friendship, ever question. If somebody likes you or not, if somebody rates you or not, if somebody backs you or not, if somebody is supportive of you or not. That's something you should never, ever have to question. What? If that's not a sign of evil eye, I don't know what is, because that is evil eye. Like, people who are like manifesting your downfall, people that don't actually want good things to happen to you, if you can't work out if they're nice or not, it's so manipulative. You would have no doubts about true friends. And I can imagine, you know, watching this, you can think of, you know, most of your friends who are for you and you don't even question that. And it's the same with me, like my friends, like I don't ever question whether they're for me or not, because I know they are. Like, it's not even something that crosses my mind. But the people in the past that I did feel that way about, yeah, they weren't for me, they didn't back me, they didn't support me. Again, if you're not able to pinpoint an exact thing that is unkind, which is like, you know, going back to what I said at the beginning, these small little things you can easily just brush off as, you know, oh, they were having a bit of a bad day, oh, they were feeling a bit insecure that day, kind of end up like second guessing yourself. It is so much more sinister, because at least with the obvious stuff, it's obvious. At least your brain can be like, that's an obviously objectively not okay thing to do. But these more subtle things are what makes it more sinister, are what makes it really difficult to move away from certain friendships, because you're constantly guessing, you're like not being able to pinpoint exactly what it is that bothers you, but you just get a bad feeling, you just get bad energy. That's the more sinister stuff. That's the stuff that is like more worrying, because if they were to ask you, why have you moved yourself away from this friendship, or why are you like distancing yourself from this friendship, or why have you cut me off, you know, you can't say that, oh, well, you know, that one comment that you made that one time was what tipped me over the edge, because they just think, well, yeah, but that could have just been a bad day. So it's really sinister, and it's like a manipulation tactic that a lot of people use. They can turn around and say to you, oh yeah, but I was nice to you about like all these other times, I was kind to you all these other times. And I just want to clarify that if they say that, if somebody has that come out of their mouth where they're like, yeah, but I did all these nice things for you, I was really supportive in this and this way, but then in tandem at the same time they had said unkind things, that wasn't genuinely them doing stuff from the goodness of their hearts. They're using that now as a manipulation tactic. So that niceness, or those things they did for you, were done in order to prevent you from being able to bring up those things that they did that were unkind. And it keeps people in this loop for like years and years and years, which it did for me. I remember one of my friends, she said to me, she was like, does it occur to you, Hattie, that she does know what she's doing? And it hadn't. That's when I started to see literally everything that she did that was nice was actually for a greater purpose, which was that so she could keep me in her life, to insult me and make me feel like shit, to make herself feel better. Almost like they created a space where it would be impossible for you to escape. It's a place where, without there being a massive emotional blow up, without there being, you know, loads of beef and like, you know, it bleeding onto other friendships, you know, that you're mutual friends with, you can't escape without there being that, because they're always going to say, yeah, but I was nice to you, yeah, but I did these things for you, even though they did these bad things as well. It's like, it shouldn't be a situation where somebody's having to like love bomb you and like shower you with affection in order to cover up the fact that they actually know that they treat you like shit. Like, that to me is a clear indication that any niceness that came from them was actually just to distract from the fact that they said things that were hurtful, and they knew they were doing it, which is why they had to overcompensate with the love bombing, which is why they have to overcompensate with, you know, making so much effort with you. I think when somebody has bad energy towards you or bad feeling towards you, they find it really difficult to actually hold it in. So there'd be times, for example, when she couldn't really like be genuine or fake it all the time, because it was false, it was manufactured, it wasn't true. So her real feelings towards me came out, like subtly at times, because that's how she truly felt about me. And that's what's sinister. It's like you can work out how somebody truly feels about you when their guard is down, you know, the times when they kind of drop that, and they drop that sort of like niceness, when they can't hold in that negative feeling towards you, it will come out somewhere. They can't pretend all the time. It's exhausting. Another thing is that when you catch somebody staring at you, and it can be staring or glaring, obviously there's like a difference, but even when somebody's staring at you and you can feel eyes, like you know when somebody's looking at you, and then you kind of like clock eyes with them and then they look away, that to me seems suspicious. When I lived in America, I remember these two girls who were in our friendship group, and I knew they didn't like me. I remember this one time, they were across the canteen, like they were talking amongst themselves, and I could literally feel their eyes on me, like looked at them, and they were like, and like acted as if they were like looking at me in like a positive way. I was like, I just know that stare, I can feel it, I know, I can sense bad energy, I can sense it. I'm just like, I know you're fucking talking about me, and now you're trying to pretend like you weren't looking at me while chatting shit. Like, and it's not even just like obvious things like that. Even with this like particular person that I've been talking about during this video, I remember being at a club and oh my god, I remember looking at her at one point and I caught eyes with her and I smiled. I was like, having a good time, and she was like, and I was like, sorry, but this person cannot be my friend. And looking back on that, I'm like, why didn't I just like cut the friendship off at that point? And instead of like waiting a whole other year and a half. And that's an example of like, you know, somebody who's staring at me and then actually just doesn't like me. Like she didn't like me, she didn't like me at all. My final thing is that they treat others around you nicely. They treat others around you with respect. They don't make maybe like the comments that they make to you, or a way of like isolating you to the point where you feel like you can't talk to anybody else that knows them about it, because they'll just be like, what do you mean? They're really nice. So from their experience, they have a positive experience with that person. So if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're like, everybody else around me seems to have a positive opinion of them, and then I'm left feeling like shit every time I interact with them, or I'm left feeling like they're giving me bad vibes, that is either deliberate because they want to isolate you and make you feel like you're crazy, but also it's maybe the way that they feel towards everybody else is not this sort of like rivalry, competitive, like, you know, they don't feel like threatened by other people. Other people essentially don't invoke those feelings in them that you do. And by the way, this isn't your fault, because everybody's a reflection back. You know, everybody is a mirror to you. So if somebody is getting triggered by you literally existing, then, or like just being yourself, that is a reflection on them. When you're a happy, confident, authentic person, generally speaking, you're going to reflect back to people what they're not. You're going to reflect back to people their insecurities. You're going to reflect back to people how they truly feel about themselves, because they can see that maybe how you feel about yourself isn't how they feel about themselves. It's triggering, it's upsetting. And other people don't necessarily invoke that feeling in them. So they're not going to, you know, take out their resentment, they take out their insecurities or whatever on them, because in their eyes, they're not the ones that are triggering them. Talking about passive aggressiveness when it comes to some people getting treated differently than others or than you, again, is like another really subtle sign, because that passive aggressiveness is, again, not so overt to other people, so other people can't relate to it. People can also brush it off as like, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it, or I'm sure it was just like a bad day. Then that makes you question yourself as well. It is so sinister. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, you've taken some value from it. This is from my experience, so I want to hear your experiences too. See if there seems to be some kind of consensus on these things. It would be really interesting. Have a lovely remainder of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.